your host, Selah Shalom, and this is the Cosmon Teachings in the words of Jehovah and his angel ambassadors from the Cosmon Bible, Owaspi. And the topic of discussion today is going to be called the five sons of the Ark of Noah, where I'm going to explain the names given to the people that were chosen to survive the flood or sinking of Pan when the earth entered the Ark of Noah. Now, as I explained in a documentary called The Flood in the Ark of Noah, that Noah is not a person, but the name of the 17th ark after the creation of man, the Ark of Noah. Although in the King James Bible it states Noah was a person with three sons, this is an allegory term which is about to be cleared up now. In the Lord's first book, chapter 2, verse 1 through 12, it gives a brief description of the flood that took place. It states, "The Lord said, a wise physician amputated a diseased limb and so preserved the trunk to become healed. Saw I not the rankness of the tribes of darkness, the drunks, or Canaanites, and that the proceeding of man would render the earth void?" Verse 3, "What is all the world if it brings not forth heirs unto everlasting life? Behold, I saw that my chosen had become exterminated on all the divisions of the earth except Pan. And I saw that they who had been their destroyers had in turn nearly exterminated one another. And I saw that to bring the remnant of my people hither, they could again reestablish themselves and become the seed of a mighty people. But as for the land of Pan, it was already in the throes of death, and the Canaanites, or drunks, had become as a feastering sore, and the spirits of the dead, tens of thousands of millions of them, would not quit their hold on mortals' life while on the earth. And I sent my angels around about the whole earth, and gathered in the spirits of darkness, and gathered them up unto the land of Pan. And when my work was in readiness, I raised up my hand as a surgeon that would lop off a diseased limb, and I clipped asunder the continent of Pan, and sunk it beneath the waters. And my angels conducted my chosen out of that land, and not one of them perished. I said unto the guardian angels whom I had given to man, in the lands whither I will take my people, let them build mounds and walled cities, with ladders to enter after the manner of the ancients. In all the divisions of the earth alike and alike shall they build. For in the time of Cosmon their relic shall be testimony that the Ions foreran the copper-colored race in all the world. So also will I, the Lord, provide in the Cosmon era to discover the sunken land of Pan, that mortals may comprehend the magnitude of the work of the Lord." So here the Lord gives a rundown of the cause of why Pan was sunken underwater. Now the names of the five sons or fleets of Noah are Shem, Ham, Japheth, Watama, and Yesta. And these were the names given by the Lord, as it states in the Lord's first book, chapter 1, verse 48, where it states, "The Lord said, I will name the fleets of my chosen, and their names shall be everlasting on the earth." And the Lord names them Watama, Shem, Japheth, Ham, and Yesta. So these names apply to the names of the fleets of ships congregated into five groups. So these names are not referring to any personal individual, but the fleets of ships. Now there were 12,420 people that were chosen to be saved from the sinking of Pan, or the flood, as it states in the Lord's first book, chapter 1, verse 44. "And the Lord said, I numbered them that were saved, and there were 12,420, and these were all that remained of the first race of man that walked on 2 feet. So there were 12,420 people that were saved from the sinking of Pan, or the flood. Now the 12,420 people that were chosen to be saved, they were commanded to build 138 ships, as it states in the Lord's first book, chapter 1, verse 39. And the angels of heaven numbered the ships, and there were of them 138. And the ships stood on the mountains and in the valleys. Nowhere near the water stood one of all the ships that had been built. So there were 138 ships that were built by the 12,420 people that were to be saved from the sinking of Pan. Now here's the breakdown. You have 12,420 people and 138 ships divided into 5 fleets. For one ship, you had about 90 people and 34 ships made up one fleet or group. So you would have about roughly 3,000 people that would make up one fleet or group. And the name of the group or fleet is, for example, Ham. So Ham is not referring to an individual or person, but the overall name of the 34 ships that made up that fleet, the fleet of Ham. So for example, Cush, Mizraim, Put would be families within the fleets of Ham and would represent one of the ships that the families of Cush was in. And another boat would represent the families of Mizraim within the fleets of Ham. And this would apply to the rest of the fleets or sons of Noah. Now you had about 3,105 people in one fleet or group of 34 ships. So Ham representing 34 ships would be roughly 3,105 people to represent that fleet. And roughly 90 people would make up one ship. So Shem had 3,105 people representing the fleet of Shem. Ham had 3,105 people representing the fleet of Ham. And Japhet had 3,105 people representing the fleet of Japhet. And Gautama had 3,105 people representing the fleet of Gautama, totaling 12,420 people divided up into 4 fleets of 34 ships. And the 5th fleet was named Yesta, which was 2 ships that were separated from the rest of the fleets, which was a small number of people that landed off the coast of Japan. And this is the breakdown of the 5 fleets or sons in the Ark of Noah: the fleet of Shem, the fleet of Ham, the fleet of Japhet, the fleet of Gautama, and the fleet of Yesta. Now, in the Lord's 5th book, chapter 5, verse 1, it states, "Thus the Lord established the 5 people who were saved from Pan, and he commanded them to preserve Panic words in their respective countries, and they so preserved them, many of which exist till this day." So after the 5 sons of Noah settled in their respective countries, the Lord commanded them to preserve some of the Panic words. So each country had their own preserved customs from Pan, which they had before the flood. So here you have each country, Shem, Ham, Japhet, Gautama, and Yesta, with customs and cultures already established before they mingled amongst each other. And in the Lord's 1st book, chapter 2, verse 15 through 20, it states, it gives a description of the cities and nations after the flood. Verse 15, "And every city had one rabbi, head father, who knew the way of the Lord. By the rabbi were the altars of the Lord built, and the times of the sacred days foretold." Verse 16, "And the rabbi made records in writing on stone, the which they taught to their successors, and to whomsoever desired to learn of the Lord. And the Lord abide with them, and they kept the commandment and multiplied exceedingly in all the divisions of the world. Nor was there any war in any land under the sun in those days." Verse 19, "In 3,000 years after, behold, there were thousands of cities and hundreds of thousands of inhabitants who had spread abroad over the lands of the earth." Verse 20, "And they had built ships and sailed abroad on the seas, and inhabited the islands thereof, north and south and east and west." So here it states in all the countries